Andrea Briggs. I am the curator of this exhibition, and I have with me Sarah McEwan. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land in which we stand, the Wiradjuri people, and pay my respects to elders past, present and future. Sarah, I'd like to begin by asking you a few questions. Can you describe this body of work to those who haven't seen this exhibition yet?
So this exhibition is called Unrequited Love, the Great Magpesis. And so really I was thinking about what does it mean to be an artist, and how does your practice and the art world intersect to form your career? And so this work is a series of acrylic and oil paintings that are either on unstretched canvas or on boards, and there is one big suspended magpesis hanging from the ceiling.
Can you talk a little bit about the title of the show? Is it a recent articulation of your practice, or is magpesis something or someone that you have referred to for a while?
Interestingly enough, in COVID, in the first lockdown, it got me thinking about my career and my practice, because we were in England and had to get an emergency flight home. And so, all of these things that I'd been working towards for the last few years couldn't happen. And so it felt like somebody had put a stick in the spokes of my bike and I'd fallen off in a great big heap. And so it forced me to think about, why do I feel like that? And so I started imagining my career and my practice and the sector as a person. And then I was like, what kind of relationship would I have with them? And so then I started thinking about ancient Greek words and thinking maybe I can name this feeling or this thing. And so I was thinking about like a spiritual love that you have for your practice, and then like the fact that you invent things from nothing, and then also this kind of mad obsessive love that you have to have as well. And so I kind of looked at the ancient Greek words for those kinds of feelings and kind of mushed three words together to form magpesis. So really this is the first iteration of magpesis and the first kind of exploration that I've had. And I guess I'm not too sure about what magpesis will do in the future, but I guess it's a good barometer for me to understand where I'm at within what's happening in my life, to just kind of gauge whether or not I'm in a healthy place or an unhealthy place.
Can you talk about the imagery in your paintings, the significance of the shapes, colours and forms, and what the symbols are?
Well, I guess, it's within a semi-abstract language. So I guess this is the first time that I've exhibited in a while where I feel like you can see some kind of part of the figure. Usually it's much more abstract language that I work with. So I feel like this is like a good push out of my previous kind of visual language into maybe a more semi-figurative abstraction. Mm-hmm. So the colours in the exhibition are very bright. I guess, even though sometimes your practice and your career feels very difficult, there is still like an overwhelming joy and brightness that I wanted to reflect within the colours. And so I guess, the one thing that's kind of travelled through my previous work into this work is this kind of headless figure that I kind of work with, and so you can see that within the exhibition, kind of either the right way up or kind of reverse, so it's upside down. And I guess the upside down is that kind of more indicative of that turmoil.
Mm-hmm. This exhibition extends beyond you sharing a story and experience of being an artist. It offers a moment of solidarity for fellow arts professionals in somewhat universal or shared experience. How did your art practice evolve into one of advocacy and exchange?
So within this exhibition, I've been thinking about like, what are the 4 kind of broader themes that I'm kind of reckoning with? And they are the kind of love that you feel, the doubt, the keeping on, and then the structure. And so, as everybody knows, the world has all of these structures that you have to navigate, whether you can do that successfully or not, depending on the barriers that you have within your life. And so I guess I see, from when I went to art school, I became very sharply aware of those barriers and those structures that you have to perform in. And so I guess I see Magpesis as like the way that you perform these series of tasks will then relate to how your career trajectory unfolds. And so I guess within that kind of thinking, it made me feel quite anti-structure. And I worked a lot in underground spaces where, it's about making meaning from what you have, not necessarily having meaning, having structures make the meaning for you. And so I guess that I see my practice very much engaged with other artists and other people who are making meaning from what's around them, separate to the structures that often they can't inhabit or be a part of. And so really, I guess I see that solidarity working within that space where I grew up around people making the world that they want and need within the limits that they have. And so I guess I feel really passionate about people accessing that part of themselves and that right for meaning making within their lives. And so I guess that's my kind of complicated way of saying that, throughout the kind of history of my practice, that that has been a really significant thing for me. And that's why I think Magpesis, after all of this time, is a way to kind of articulate that, I think, in a more succinct way than, say, answering this question.
Can you give a brief introduction of the CAD Factory and how it functions currently? How can artists and creatives become involved?
Well, the CAD Factory started in November 2004 in a warehouse space in Marrickville in Sydney. And so I guess Sydney in the late 90s and noughties had a really strong warehouse culture where people were making their own meaning separate to those art world structures. And so the CAD really comes from that ethos where it's, artists supporting other artists. And I guess over time it's evolved from being like a space for bands playing and art exhibitions that's kind of more around party culture, where I feel like that was the first space. And then the second space that we had in Marrickville was, afternoon gigs and a bit more grown up as we kind of grew up. And then now the CAD Factory is a not-for-profit charity based in regional New South Wales, about an hour and a half from Albury in Sandigo. And so I guess I feel like the CAD Factory has grown up with how Vic and I have grown up as people. And I guess I think it's kind of funny that we have like adopted traditional art world structures as well. But I think that ethos of meaning making beyond those structures kind of resonates through that. So we work with a lot of artists. We've probably worked with thousands of artists since 2004. And so we do a bunch of different things. So we have like different opportunities for artists to engage with us. We do direct commissions, we do professional development. We have a recording studio that people can access. And so I guess a way to become involved is through following us on social media or our mailing list and looking for those call-outs. I do think one thing with the CAD Factory is that it's very relational, and so I think part of what Vic and I do is that we form deep, lasting relationships with other people and partners, because I guess it's so nice to have that safety and the longevity of working with somebody, so you can make these amazing things. And I should just explain that Vic is my husband and also the artistic director of the CAD Factory. So the two of us work together alongside Kimberly Beattie, who lives in Narandra, who I think you went to school with, Andrea.
I do.
and also with our lovely board.
How do you balance your multiple roles at the same time?
I guess I see the different kind of facets of what I do as all kind of a bigger whole. So I guess I see it as a life practice where all of these things kind of interact with each other to form this like one amazing thing, where I feel like, the art sector is not like this one thing, it's these like many amazing things. And I guess that's the same as your practice. It's like these many amazing things make it up. And I guess, my relationship to the world is through like creative practice and making things and meaning making. And so to me, I guess it just makes sense that all of these different aspects are like deeply fascinating to me. And so of course I want to be engaged with them. Of course I want to do all of these things. But I guess it also has like a beginning within that DIY kind of culture that I did grow up in, where it's like, you want to do something, well just do it, and you can just do it yourself. And so I think that kind of also makes me be able to juggle things simultaneously.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for being with us today. I hope you enjoy your experience here at Murray Arts Museum Albury, and I look forward to the opening.
Thanks so much, Andrea.
Thank you.